Hello everyone, welcome back to another tier list video where today we are going to be talking about the starting power forwards for the 2021-22 NBA season. If you do go on to enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And be sure to let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of my rankings, anyone you would change up or down a tier, as there is very much a lot of argument and debate that can be had among some of these rankings because a lot of them are very hard to decide. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. Ultimately, let's get started with Daniel Theis. For me, below average starter. Houston needs some veteran leadership. He's fine. He can give you some defense and rebounding, but he's not going to do anything great for you. And he's ideally best off of the bench at this point in time in his career. John Collins is an above average starter for me. I would not consider him an all-star, but he definitely showed last year in the playoffs that he can give you some defense, give you some rim protection, and space the floor a little bit, can score the basketball, as we all knew. Patrick Williams, for me, currently is an average starter. He has a lot more development on the offensive end to do still for him to be considered any higher. I think he can get there, but heading into this season, for now, he is a fine offensive piece that is going to be crucial to their team defense. And so when he gets back from injury, his main concern and focus on this team is going to be the defensive end. And ultimately, he is solid on that end. I think has a lot of upside. I put him in that average starter category. Kevin Durant, superstar. Don't need to discuss it if you disagree with that. I don't know what to tell you. Rui Hachimura, average starter for me. He's a fine power forward, but I think still has some untapped potential, and there's hope that he can hope to improve and still be better. But ultimately, he's a fine starting power forward. He just hasn't really reached to the heights that some people would have hoped for. Jason Tatum is on the borderline of being a superstar for me. He's not quite there yet. But if he can have another great offensive year, take a few more steps forward on offense, it can get back alongside the entire Boston team to being more effort and more aware of the defensive end. And ultimately, I think he can push himself into superstar status by the end of the season. Julius Randle and Pascal Siakam are the next two. Don't tell me that those aren't hard to say. Let me know, like, there's a few here. I mean, you're talking about Sabonis, Julius Randle, Pascal Siakam, Jeremy Grant. There's a lot of guys that are like borderline all-stars as far as all-star talent goes. So be sure to let me know what you guys think. Julius Randle, for me, based off of last year, is an all-star talent. Personally, I don't think he's going to be as good as last year. I think last year's his peak. Make that argument down below. Let's have a discussion about it. But ultimately, I think Julius Randle's a very good player. He took steps forward on defense, improved his three-point shot. But I think last year is as good as we're getting from Julius Randle. I think we'll see a bit of a step back. And I personally have him as an above-average starter. That's nothing wrong about that, but an above-average starter. Pascal Siakam, I personally have as an all-star. I know I'm a Raptors fan. Call me biased if you want. But ultimately, Siakam's defense goes extremely under the radar, which is very odd for someone of his length and energy and activity. He's a fairly good rim protector for his size, can get out on the perimeter and guard. He's extremely active and disruptive on defense, and is a bucket on offense as well. Consistency and efficiency haven't been there, and I know it hasn't been to the level of production that some people have wanted, but ultimately, Pascal Siakam is still a very good player, and now back in Toronto. Be surprised if he plays a bit better with a home crowd behind him. Evan Mobley, as with all of the rookies in this series, I am not ranking until next season, so I'm just putting them in the below average starter category for now. And all rookies from this year's draft class, I will then rank in next year's tier list edition before next season, once I have seen them play in the league for a season. Jeremy Grant, for me, is an above average starter. I don't think he's an all-star caliber player. His offensive numbers are extremely higher than they normally would be because he is playing on a weak Detroit Pistons roster. Ultimately, if you threw someone like John Collins or Julius Randle, Pascal Siakam on that Pistons roster last year, they would have had pretty darn good offensive numbers as well. And that's not to take anything away from Jeremy Grant, but I think he is best served as an above-average starter than he is leading the team. And ultimately, he puts himself in the above-average starter category. Domantas Sabonis is an all-star for me, although an all-star with extremely poor defense that I could listen to an argument about being an above-average starter. But can finish well in the paint, an extremely good rebounder, extremely good playmaker for his size and length, and ultimately leads himself being the leader of the Indiana Pacers that'll push back into the playoffs this year. Giannis Antetokounmpo, superstar, no discussion. Miles Bridges. I don't know what I think about Miles Bridges. Based on the flashes Miles Bridges showed when starting last year, I would like to think an above average starter. But I think I'll put him at an average starter for now, just due to the fact that I haven't seen enough of him at that high level. But he could certainly play himself into an above average starter role this upcoming season. PJ Tucker, average starter. He's not going to do enough on offense to be anything better. But he's so impactful defensively that he earns himself an average starter role. Jonathan Isaac, I mean, man hasn't played in over a year. He's extremely disruptive defensively. So I'll put him in the average starter category for now, but it really just depends on what we get from him when he returns. Aaron Gordon is an above average starter. I think he's in the best role of his career in Denver, where he just gets to be a little bit of a Swiss Army knife that does anything. Kind of a B-Tech Draymond Green. Sure, not to the level of success of Draymond Green and not with the playmaking, but just in the sense that he is playing a role. He doesn't have to do a ton on the offensive end, but he can just cut, rebound, defend, space the floor a little bit for you. Just be that super athletic guy that he is, make all of those small winning plays. Dorian Prince, who I don't think is going to be starting for Minnesota, but apparently the people who made this tier list do. I would have him as a below average starter, but I would expect that's going to be Jalen McDaniels, who even still I would have as a below average starter, but has upside to be much more than that. Poku is who has been listed here to be the starting power forward for the OKC Thunder. Of course, if any of you have been following OKC, that is not going to be true. He's going to be coming off the bench, and this will be Darius Bazley. So presuming this is Darius Bazley, I would have him as an average starter. Robert Covington's just an average starter for me at this point in time in his career. His offense is really not that great anymore. His three-point shooting hasn't been anywhere near as good for the last year or two. And ultimately, his defense is still good, but it's not amazing. And his on-ball defense isn't anything spectacular. It's more so his disruptiveness in the lane and his ability to protect the rim as a forward. But ultimately, he doesn't get anywhere near above in the above average starter category. Royce O'Neal, again, just an average starter. He really improved his three-point shooting last year, which really improved his value. But it is really there for his defense at 6'4", a power forward. He continues to be good defensively. And ultimately, that's a big part of why he is an average starter. Draymond Green, you can make the argument for average starter. I just don't think you're right. Above average starter is where I have to put him. He had a much better year last year. His offense is still pretty abysmal as far as the scoring standpoint goes. But he's one of the best defensive players in the league. Extremely active, extremely good playmaker, and just fits in so well with Curry and Clay. Marcus Morris, for me, is an average starter. You can argue above average, but I don't think he's as good as the guys in that tier. But ultimately is going to have to play an important role for this team with Kawhi Leonard out for the year. Anthony Davis, based on play last year, is an all-star. You can argue superstar, but AD just did not play good enough and did not want it enough last year for me to warrant putting him in a category alongside KD and Giannis. AD at his best when he is playing hard, when he's committed, when he's healthy, should be and can be and has been a superstar level talent. I just didn't see that from him last year. So ultimately, I have to put him in the all-star category because I'm giving this based off of merit, not based off on what I think they can do, their upside, or what I think they will do this season. Jamison Crowder, average starter, a fine three-point shooter, fine defender, just basic 3-and-D guy. Marvin Bagley, below average starter at this point. I still think he should be playing at the center spot. I don't think he's best at the power forward spot, and I think he needs to change scenarios and environments and get out of Sacramento. Dorian Finney-Smith, who I think will be starting at the 3 this year with Dallas, although it is definitely possible he will see some time at the 4 as well. He's an average starter. He's improved his three-point shooting a lot, which has definitely helped him and continues to be a good defensive player as well. I notice a lot of these guys, especially in the West, are just really good 3-and-D guys with good defense, with decent shooting. Dorian Finney-Smith, Royce O'Neal, Jamison Crowder. It's kind of the way it is. Here's Jackson Jr., who recently to sign an extension today as of the day of recording this. He should be in the above average. Full congrats to him on getting his bag. I think it was $105 million across 4 years, which I think is a good contract. If he can stay healthy, he has all-star potential still, and I think he will be an above average starter for this Memphis team heading into the upcoming season. Zion Williamson, of course, is going to miss time this year, but has proven himself to be an all-star caliber talent. Thaddeus Young is not going to be starting for the San Antonio Spurs. It is going to be Keldon Johnson, and as of right now, I would consider Keldon Johnson to be an average starter, but definitely has the upside to do more than that this upcoming season. And then Tobias Harris of the Philadelphia 76ers is an above-average starter. Certainly not fully deserving of a max contract, but Philly had to give him that to keep him there. Is a good scorer, can give you a little bit on defense, and is going to have to be an important piece for this team, depending on the availability of Ben Simmons. But ultimately, that is my tier list for the starting power forwards for the 2021-22 season. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below on my tier list and anything you would change, as I'm sure there would be. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and be sure to click the box on screen to check my small forwards tier lists if you have not seen that already. That being said, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.